Welcome to the session. In this session, we will concentrate on content organization in the database management systems and formats, those are available. This particular session is a precursor to the follow on sessions of Dr. Parthasarathi. So, here I will be talking about the preliminary things, wherein which in the other sessions to be taken over by Professor Partha, he will be elaborately telling you the text retrievals, elaborately telling you what are the various types of index, along with so many examples of websites and examples. So, here before starting, let us see databases are created for specific purposes, especially in libraries for each and every subject, maybe subject areas, bibliographical and other databases, those are created for specific purposes. The information contained in those databases are different from one to other. Some databases they may be of for computer science, some databases they maintain for sciences, some databases they maintain for humanities, likewise subject wise they may be maintained. Moreover, particular services and applications may be developed for these specific databases. So, when we talk about a particular category, depending upon the category or depending upon the subject area or depending upon the database, the nature of the database, the layer of services are being provided or layer of applications are being provided. So, this leads to each database and its content have to be carefully organized according to the purpose. So, it requires a kind of content management system. The whole contents needs to be organized in a fashion wherein which once the user gives the request for a relevant information, then obviously within no time the information should be provided. So, the efficient mechanism only happens when a proper content organization technique is being followed. So, if the purpose is only to display the information, then it is just you have to create a database, you have to furnish certain fields, then the information is available, just only the tips of the information is available. Suppose when the situation comes that you have to manage the content also, you have to place the content also in the database, then a kind of content organization software also is required, and that particular content organizer software will be acting a kind of interface between the user and the database that is there. So, depending upon the technique, depending upon the mechanisms that the content organization applies, then the databases are being fetched for the users. So, just for example, let us see a databases of bibliographic information and abstracts contain details of book, articles, conference and seminar papers. So, what will be the typical operations for these particular things? You have to provide the interfaces to get the bibliographic information for the user, or else the display interface, wherein which suppose if the user is asking the rank wise, then the rank wise like such searched things should be displayed, like the sorted wise displayed should be given, like year wise, or else suppose if the user is asking for the download utilities, then the content download utilities should be provided. So, depending upon the type of database or depending upon the nature of the database, the applications, the interfaces and the utilities will be provided. Let us come to the critical part, which is the content organization part. So, it is the task of organizing content according to different prescribed standards or categorization of the database content. So, normally in the libraries everybody they are using a standard format called as MARC21, MARC 21 for bibliographic data organization. Suppose if your standards are combined with MARC 21 means, so it is like benchmark for that particular bibliographic data organization, content organization part. it is meeting that particular standards. So, among the standards they had given certain guidelines how to store, how to organize, and what are the various layers that they can provide upon the database in order to retrieve the information from the databases. The typical organization in library collections would be like the materials like e-books, journals, reference works and encyclopedia. So, another categorization is by type of sub collections. One may be the type of main collections just like e-books. So, those are the categories that they will be categorized into, and the other type of categorization is the sub collections of the main collection. So, in this way normally the traditional library organizes. So, full text of the documents is most sought in electronic and traditional collections. So, in the bibliographic like databases you may not be finding the complete content. So, suppose if the content is also to be stored, then you have to follow a kind of content organization mechanism also. Providing access to particular information, the full text is very difficult in order to procure, then in order to index, in order to fetch the relevant information, relevant part of the information, it will be very difficult. So, it has to maintain certain techniques or certain algorithms in order to fetch those particular things. Most such paradigms work on the logic of retrieving most frequent occurrences of the keyword terms. So, suppose if I use the Google Scholar or if I use the Google, then in order to get the information on digital library, I will be placing the string digital library and the relevant information will be appearing. However, wherever the keyword matches in the ranking, that appears as the first rank, and later on the following searches are the results of the following searches will be occurring. So, here we are using the keyword as the factor or else keyword as a string in order to get the information. Likewise, there may be another category wherein which frequent occurrences of the terms are also can be constitute to the searching criteria. Then other method is to augment database with an authority list. Already we will be augmenting, we will be keying in the augmented database, and against to that particular word, if at all relevant words are also being given. Suppose if the word does not appear, like the key term does not appear, however, it looks for the authority list and equivalent words whatever we had placed against to that particular word will be looked into and relevant information is being displayed. So, the authority list is simply a list of preferred words that the DB uses to index documents. Suppose if you had presented one abstract. So, after that particular 1 or 2 paragraphs, every researcher will give the keywords. So, in order to fetch that abstract, so the relevant keywords that are being augmented in the database under the authority list is the keywords that the user has provided. Any one of the keyword, if at all is been placed in the search string, obviously that abstract appears. Then a control vocabulary list accommodates users errors. Suppose if the input whatever we are giving some spelling mistake input or some sort of input, suppose if we are giving an acronym or alternate term is been placed. However, this control vocabulary list accommodates the the user's errors, and it obviously think in a wise way and give the term. Suppose if I am using digital and I had misspelled as DIIGITAL, then obviously this control vocabulary will controls and accommodates that error and it displays the error also. Suppose if you see a kind of a Google that we are using today, that search engine, suppose if you use DIIGITAL in the search string area, even then the first line will be appearing, are you looking for digital, DIGIT, there it pronounces the correct spelling. So, this can be done only with the help of this control vocabulary lists. So, even though we had misspelled that word while typing keying in the string, it understood in a right way, and it is like prompting the user, are you looking for digital, DIGITAL. then we click on that particular referencing, obviously the list will be displayed. So, this is one of the example. Then organization can also be at an intellectual level using ontologies. So, this is a kind of organization organizing the databases wherein which the ontology or the semantic mapping is being induced. So, according to the subject concept or else subject semantic map or else the ontology, the things are being organized. So, one of the common means to achieve such an organization is by deploying subject based theories to map the hierarchical relationships of concept in the subject domains. This hierarchical mapping is used for context based retrieval of the concepts. Even though we are not searching using a keyword or else a controlled vocabulary, however, we are searching using some ontology, then it permits. So, suppose if we are placing a statement, then also it understands and it displays the relevant information. So, this is a kind of complex methodology following the ontology and displaying the information. However, this particular technique is widely used right now. Then comes the data types and formats. So, when we see the databases that we have in the libraries or offline or online, or else whether they are in the CDs, hard disks or else connected to online, there are several types of archives or else several types of databases against which the users request some information. So, there are several data types in a multimedia database. Here I am using the word multimedia in the sense that many media are incorporated, like text is incorporated, image, audio, animation. So, here I am talking that particular media in the context of multimedia. So, for each and every format or each and every component, every media component that we are using, a fixed format or formats are being used. Suppose if we are taking an example of a web page. So, there the web page is being displayed when we type the URL. Then obviously along with the text material, many other things, whatever those are programmed or whatever those are being designed, displays immediately along with the text and other things. So, one corner we may be having a simple audio file, another corner we may be having a reference link, another corner we may be having a download option, and some flash is playing on, some video is there uploaded. So, there are several like formats available on that particular simple web page. So, whenever we display that web page, what we see is, suppose if the internet connection is very slow, it loads very slow, the page loads very slow, the home page loads very slow. Suppose if the connection is okay, but the web page design was poor, like they had followed heavy things like heavy formats on the web page. So, the time taking in order to load all the media on the home page is much higher. So, in order to look all these things and in order to consider all these considerations, we have to follow which format is suitable for which database or for which web page. So, those particular things let us talk about. For text, what are the formats that one needs to follow? For web pages as well as for the CD based databases or hard disk based databases. What kind of image formats one needs to follow if at all you have to move to the online databases? What kind of speech or audio file formats one needs to follow? These things we will see in this particular session. And then this is, as I told you before, this particular session is precursor session to the follow-on sessions, wherein which Dr. Partha will be discussing on text retrieval, ASCII codes, Unicodes and other things. If you are quite familiar with this particular session, you will be easily catching up all those things, all those discussions that he will be giving in the one or two sessions. So, let us see one by one which data type and against that data type what are the like file formats one needs to have. Starting with the text format, this text format is commonly used format. Like within the text format you have the plain text or else the formatted text. What is the basic difference between a plain text and a formatted text? Everybody nowadays we are using some word, and then we are using the MS Word, which we have some editing and formatting capabilities also. In the WinWord, whatever we use very raw, which is placed in the accessories, that it allows you to, like using that notepad and other things, it allows you to type some text. But there won't be any feature which caters the formatting, like the font size, the color, the design, the size of the font, the color of the font and other things. So, it is a complete plain text wherein which it appears with the file extension called as the .txt. Then there is another format called as .doc. When we use the editor or else word processor or else MS Office, MS Word, then you can have the extension .doc or else .docx depending upon the year of package that we are using, .wpd and then WordPad, then .pdf and then PostScript.ps, or else suppose if we are using the HTML kind of thing, wherein which in order to display the page we use the browser. So, there the extension will be .htm, even though it appears as a static text on some of the pages, it will have an extension called as .htm. So, let us see where we use these formats. Images can be created through appropriate image processing packages like Paint, Paintbrush, Photoshop, Image Assistant, etc. There are huge number of packages available in order to create the images. One type of thing we can do is directly use take a click and then you can download that file and you can once again upload wherever you want in the database or so. But whenever we are dealing with the images, photographs, sketches, maps, we have to see certain features also. The color, the resolution, file size, the compression, whether it is allowing the compression technique or whether it is a non-compressed image, the conversion format. Suppose I had taken one file format and then I want to convert that particular image into a different kind of file format, whether it is allowing or not. These particular features also we have to take care. Suppose if we are drawing a simple drawing using the MS Paint, by default the file is stored like a bitmap with the extension called as .bmp. That file is very heavy file, it is using the bitmapped format. So, it is a heavy file. Whether that particular .bmp is allowing the compression in order to change the format from .bmp to other kind of formats in order to upload that file on the online. So, we have to see various kinds of features before we select the images. Then one by one we watch the formats. Here I had given you .bmp, these are bitmap files, standard Windows raster format, these are heavy in nature, quick display is allowed, but uncompressed form, it does not allow the compression technique to apply for, occupy more disk space. The other format is available .gif. Normally the .bmp files we do not encourage to upload it onto the online on the web pages and other things, because they occupies huge space. Instead of one BMP file you can put several .gif and other formats. .gif stands for graphic interchange file for archiving information, normally scanned images. Suppose if you want to scan some photograph and put it, normally that particular format we select is .gif. For archiving kind of nature and other things we use this kind of formatted images with .gif. These are standard web format to store images, to archive images, and small in size. This file will be in small sizes. Then comes the .jpg. This stands for Joint Photographic Experts Group, high compression. It meets the web standards. The files will be very small and allows quicker transfer. Quicker transfer in the sense the downloading time will be very less. Suppose if we are talking about the online databases and some .jpg are there, files are there, and if at all we are clicking that particular file to, if we had given the reference link and the web page is loading, and that takes, suppose if it carries the .jpg pictures, they appears very fast. So that is the how we had given the word called as the quick transfer from the server to the browser. Picture quality remains accurate at lesser levels of compression. So normally on the online and other databases we use this .jpg pictures. If you see the e-commerce websites currently, in order to display the products, in order to display the images of the product, they use this .jpg pictures because the way it transfers from the server to the browser will be very fast. Then comes another format called as .tiff, tagged image file format. It was designed to overcome the problem of application dependence, both on screen display as well as print of photos. The quality that it gives is high. For both the reasons we use this particular .tiff format. Then comes the audio and speech formats. So suppose if the database we want to enrich with sound files or audio files, so there, for example, a music album, online live news broadcasting, there are several things wherein which we can code these examples of audio and speech formats. So normally there are several file formats available, and the file extension .au is commonly used on web. But these particular .au files directly do not open until and unless they have a fixed driver as well as a software called as waveform. So this particular waveform software allows you to play this .au files, otherwise it asks for the software. If we download, it will allows you to play the file. So those are the two requirements in order to play the .au file. Then comes the MIDI files, musical instrument digital interface standards, used mostly in audio control in multimedia industry. It allows for lengths to be specified as a variable number of bytes. This is a kind of different format once again for the audio and the wave files. Then there is another file called as .aiff. This particular .aiff were designed by Apple and originally made for the Mac machines. So when we talk about the machines, we talk exclusively about the Mac machines, we talk exclusively about the Windows machines. Some formats or some files, they do not like allow to open on the Mac machines. So for Mac machines they follow a fixed kind of format, and for Windows machines and Linux machines they follow a fixed kind of formats. So this .af files audio will be played on the Mac machines. And then comes very popular format that we use on the internet, that is .mp3. It stands for MPEG layer 3. It gives high levels of compression. MP3 player is required to play for this particular .mp3 files. Suppose if the song is of 2.2 minutes, some 30 seconds or 50 seconds. So the size that the .mp3 file when compared with other formats, if we compare, it will be very less. Then there is another format we can discuss, .voc. This is for storing digitized voice data, and they support variety of formats. And another file is there popular on Windows machines, that format is .wav, and it handles both the compressed and non-compressed storage formats. Let us move on to the next multimedia feature, that is the animation formats. So they are created using many animation packages like Animation Pro, Flash. There are so many Macromedia tools, those are available in order to create the animation formats. So what they does, they first of all create the 2D shapes or the 2D or 3D objects, and then they provide the audio and the movements in order to animate them. So, for example, you can see the 2D or 3D applied to the cartoons, simulations, computer games and other things. The popular formats for the animation are .flic and .flc. For Flash, there is another format wherein which you can see. So, there are several animation formats, and among the animation formats that you have, once again you have to see the features of the animation formats. Why? Because if we want to put it in the form of a field in the database, wherein which immediately when we clicks the animation appears, or else animation to be downloaded, or else animation directly to be appeared on the screens. So, we have to see several features. What is the downloading time, in which format it is there, and how much time it is taking in order to load from the server onto the pages. So, these things we have to see. Apart from this, suppose if you had given the download feature also, how much time that animation is taking to download on 128 Mbps. Likewise, several like network internet connections needs to be tested, and we have to finalize the format. Then comes the video format. There are several video formats like the .avi files and then .mou files, and each and every video format, it is supported by one or many platforms. Like here you can see .avi developed by the Microsoft, it works well with the Microsoft machines, and then .mov, this native platform, this was designed by and developed by Apple. Once again, when we talk about the Apple machines, the Mac machines, they have a different player called as QuickTime player. So, using that particular QuickTime movies player, one can play the .mov files. Likewise, you have a very popular format just like .mp3 we have for the audio, you have .mpg for the video also. This is standard internet format wherein which it has rich compression scheme and can be used on Mac after converting it into QuickTime movies. So, here this particular Mac, this particular .mpg is allowing to take a different format for the Apple machines. And there is another file with extension called as .qt QuickTime file, supported mostly on Mac machines. Currently on Windows machines also it is possible to play. So, there are several bibliographic formats also to facilitate access to collections by the users in the library. Various formats have been advocated. They are basically deal with the representation techniques and content of the bibliographic data. Many follow these standards like Mark 21, UK Mark, CC. So, they for CCF etc. they follow. For each and every format, enlist the content designators, data elements and the rules of extraction. So, as I told you before, this particular session will help the students in order to select the formats for various files pertaining to the multimedia components in order to place them in the databases. So, this is a kind of precursor session to the session followed by Dr. Parthasarathi, wherein which she discussed the text retrievals and other kind of features that one needs to take care whenever you have to have the databases updations. So, with this I conclude the session. Thank you.